This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. You're watching another edition of Driving Solutions right here at CBTNews.com. Today we're discussing how OEMs, dealers, and fleets can collaborate to build a stronger future. Commercial vehicles are more important than ever before in both sales and service. So if you're not involved with these work trucks and vans, why not? You're missing out on a lot. And even if you are already in the commercial department, division, I should say, then you should still listen to today's conversation. I think you're going to be glad you did. So we're joined now by Kathryn Schifferle. You've seen her here before on CBT News. She's the founder and chief vision officer at Work Truck Solutions. She's joined by Jim Press, who you've also seen here on CBT as well. He's the former president of Toyota North America and president, vice chairman of Chrysler, and senior advisor for Work Truck Solutions. Both Kathryn and Jim bring a wealth of experience and insights to the automotive industry. So thank you folks very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me here at CBT News. I very much appreciate it. So Jim, let me jump right in here. We're seeing an increased OEM support in the commercial vehicle space. What's driving this momentum, and why should dealers, especially those from the retail side, be paying attention to this taking place right now?
That's a good question. I appreciate the opportunity. Jim, thank you very much. And it was nice for you to name your network for our program, the Commercial Big Trucks.
CVT, that's right.
CVT. And that's really what it's about. You know, over the last decade or so, especially the Detroit 3, have eliminated product lines that weren't as profitable.
Yeah.
And sort of left the car business to those that have other very good vehicles and production sources. And so they've begun relying more and more on trucks, SUVs, for their income. And as you go forward now with the more competitive retail world and the fact that affordability is the issue we're all facing in the industry, and a limit to the number of pickups that are going to be sold at retail, the commercial business is really the best avenue for them to add additional production. And commercial trucks for the OEMs are very profitable. And it's a market that's driven by business, not retail. Yeah. And so you've got a different clientele that has repeat business, fleets of trucks,
that's right,
and in a very different environment. So, and they want to get the dealers involved, not to be relying only on the retail level, but also to become familiar with business to business and to open up commercial sales to the dealers that aren't in it now to expand their profit opportunities.
That's right.
So I think a number of things have come together at the same time.
Yep, for sure. Kathryn, I see you shaking your head there. Did you want to add to that?
Well, I love B2B, Jim, as you know, and thanks again for having us, because it is a way for I would call it a logical relationship. Businesses are always looking at some vendor or partner, right?
Yeah.
Who will be there for them and that will help them get up every day and do their job.
That's right.
And dealers are in the perfect place for that. If they just do a little bit more in that relationship. And I don't know, nobody's really talked a lot about loyalty lately. I think on the retail side, loyalty's become less of a conversation, but in commercial, it's huge. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, no question. We've had that conversation a number of times, and there's no question about it. Behind every truck owner or company that needs trucks, there's a family that needs vehicles that's going to be purchased from that same dealership as well as service and tires and everything else. But how does collaboration drive success? And I'll start with you, Jim.
Well, and collaboration is essential in this segment, more so than even retail, because you've got a produced vehicle that has to match the specific needs and application of the business.
Yeah.
Cranes or dump trucks or cement trucks or whatever they are. And so the relationship to the dealer and the upfitter has to be a chain of production coordination. And that's the most important. And then the second piece of it, I think, is that the knowledge the OEMs have and the systems and tools they have to help dealers transition from a retail focused on a transaction to the commercial that's focused on relationships.
Yeah, that's right.
And that process is taking place. You put the two together, and I think that's feeding a lot of programs that all the OEMs have. Kathryn has been excellent working with all three of the Detroit OEMs and some others in allowing us to be sort of a part of the toolkit that they have to put those programs to work in the dealerships.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to add to that, Kathryn?
I don't think a lot of people don't realize that these businesses, if their vehicle is down, they're losing $2,000 to $5,000 a day just for a local business, right? If it gets into bigger companies, it's even more than that. And so that's what drives their loyalty and their needs.
Sure, sure. Kathryn, what are some of the creative workarounds and solutions that you've seen from dealers as they navigate the challenges that we see in today's market?
I think that one of the things that I'm recently become very aware of, and it's not like I didn't understand it before, but it's as you start diving deeper, you start realizing that the end customer can be categorized in three big buckets. Mm-hmm. Big fleet, which of course the process for serving big fleet is different. Dealers can be involved in that, but it, of course, is more directed by the OEM and sometimes the large upfitters.
Right.
But we're seeing some dealers that have become experts at that. On the other side, there's government and government fleet.
Yeah.
And that's different, but we are seeing dealers that have become experts at how to navigate those types of relationships and generate. All of these, by the way, are very profitable.
Yeah.
And then of course the third, which is that local small to medium business that gets up every day and, does things in your community. I think all three of them, I've been watching dealers who have been kind of, kludging together ways to make it happen, but we're looking at ways to make it efficient
for sure.
and to make it more process driven.
Yeah. Did you want to add to that, Jim?
Yeah, maybe a couple of things. One of them is different ways of financing. Mm-hmm. Businesses, in particular commercial vehicles, it doesn't go through the normal retail filter for financing. And so the dealers that have found those solutions have been able to accelerate. And also with the OEMs, working with them to get the right inventory, the right ordering systems. And especially with the new transition to electric vehicles, this is even more important. And it's making the distribution channel more efficient for the dealers and the OEMs, so the vehicles can be sold before they're actually built. Yeah. And then the other part of it's education, and that's where a lot of that is Work Truck Solutions. And Kathryn's comes together where we have a toolbox for dealers to use to transition from retail to commercial. But more than that, we can help educate their folks to become powerful in this segment.
Yeah, that's been the key, I think.
Yeah, and I wanted to jump in there because although we're a software company, we are half software and half customer facing. That we know that this isn't the dealer's area of expertise, so they require more than just we plop some technology in their lap. This is about understanding business to business. This is about helping them groom their team to become partners and consultants.
That's right.
And as Jim pointed out, that's a really important part of what we're doing. We're doing webinars for a lot of the OEMs, and we're doing special projects with some of the bigger dealer groups. And I would say any dealer out there that is interested in understanding kind of the broad look at the business, we've got a playbook, we've got webinars that they could watch if they want to see how dealers have solved a particular problem. We're definitely there for anybody that wants to lean into it.
There's no question. In fact, I had the pleasure of speaking to one of your clients at NADA this past year, And he shared that same sentiment with me about Work Truck Solutions, in the sense that it's not just a software, but you're down in the foxhole with the dealers, showing them exactly how this is to be executed and how it runs successfully, which I think in a lot of cases, as an ex-dealer principal myself, that is a big thing to take on. So they have to have that lifeline that they can hold on to until their team feels comfortable enough to go, okay, Kathryn, Jim, we got it, and you're just there for support as we need it. But that to me would be a very, very valuable asset, from your company.
Well, and then we learn so much from our dealers.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, every dealer is kind of unique, and we want to make sure that they can do things the way that's important to them.
Sure.
And so that's part of that relationship we have.
Speaking of collaborating and working together, both of you hosted different sessions at Work Truck Solutions' recent Spring Commercial Vehicle Business Summit. What were some of the key takeaways for the audience?
I'll throw it. I'll start a little bit there. I've got a belief, after watching the evolution of the retail market and the opportunities that I've learned with Kathryn, that the commercial business segment is going to be an important profit center to dealers in 10 or 15 years, sort of the way F&I grew into that situation. 10 years ago, it was somebody from the bank was helping them write deals. And now it's an integral part of every dealer's operation and a contributor. Yeah. So I think that's probably one of the things that we talked about. And the other one really is the need for dealers to commit and focus. It isn't just to say, I want to go after those customers, but they have to get the people, the systems, and make a commitment for the inventory to be able to really get into that business, because the customers, the business users, they know who the pretenders are and who the real operators are.
That's right.
You got to really separate yourself in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. Kathryn, did you want to add to that?
Well, I have to say Jim's sessions are the most popular. So he does a great job. We call them his fireside chats, and they're really phenomenal. I get the fun thing of, the first day talking kind of about where the industry is, and the second day kind of going crazy. I would like to say that all of the sessions are up on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Great. And I recommend that people take a look at that and, kind of look through and see what it is that they might like to learn. Our October one is already scheduled, our fall one. Yeah, it's the concept that this is a whole entire ecosystem. It's a business where that collaboration from each of the different stakeholders is really important. So we should talk about it twice a year.
Yeah, for sure. No question. Jim, of course, a subject is still in the minds of everyone, and that's the continuous shifts and changes. Tariffs, 2025 has been a little bit of an up and down year so far, but what do you say when somebody asks you about the tariff situation?
Well, my first advice is real simple, and that is avoid the news, not your news, Jim.
Not CBT news, but that other media.
News. But, don't watch all the news channels. Watch sports on TV or something else that's of interest. The reality is nobody knows. Yeah. The forecasts that come out are normally sort of worst case because they're trying to lobby against something. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter at the dealer level, because the dealers are going to have the same strengths from the OEMs. The OEMs are the ones that see tariffs as a cost. Yeah. And it doesn't mean it's a price increase. It's a cost in the transfer price between the import production cost and the U.S. Tariff cost. Sure. And that's something that's the IRS coordinates with every OEM all the time. Anyway, it's a much smaller base. Sure. And so what I see is that the dealers that are overreacting and trying to read into all that are going to follow into a rabbit hole. The thing you need to do when challenges like this occur, and you got to remember this affordability issue, the interest rates, there are a lot of dynamics in the market and some consumer uncertainty, is keep focusing on the basics of your business that made you successful. Don't let it pull you off. Worry about taking care of your customers and your people, educating them.
That's right.
And nobody can be, as dealers are, at finding creative solutions around things. And we're seeing that. We saw that during COVID.
I know.
And we're going to see it now. There are
right.
going to be inventory shortages.
Yeah.
Some vehicles that are not profitable are going to go away. There are going to be some increases in price. So you got to look at creative ways of bringing in customers, putting together finance programs, putting together comp programs, selling what you have, all of the stuff you do best, and forget about all this other stuff. It's going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
You'll determine how you do versus your competitors.
That's right. That's right. Kathryn, we interviewed Senator Bernie Moreno, who, as you probably know, was a car dealer for 20 years of his life before he got into politics. And he said that the topic of tariffs is a blip on the radar, and we won't even be talking about it this time next year. You think he's right about that?
My favorite quote that I've seen recently is, "The elephant keeps walking while the dogs are barking."
I hear you. I hear. Let me ask you this, though, Kathryn. This is interesting because if I were a dealer today and I was thinking about getting into to the fleet business, I would think to myself, consumers might be swayed one way or the other on the increase of vehicles, right? If there is a tariff situation or what have you. However, if I've got 25 plumbing trucks out there and they need to hit the road and those things are aging quickly and getting up there in mileage, I don't have the luxury of waiting, right? I've got to get those vehicles on the road and keep them running. This almost seems to be somewhat of a safeguard against any kind of an increase like this, because that business owner doesn't say, well, there's tariffs, I'm going to sit on my hands and not buy.
No,
they don't have the luxury to do that.
They can't.
Right.
And during COVID, we had to hustle and try and find used vehicles that businesses would have never purchased before.
Right.
I don't think it's going to get that crazy, but I do think that, the other part of what's happening now, and I have another quote if you don't mind, which is, you can't fish in clear water. I mean, all the stuff that's going on right now that everybody's crazy about, somebody's figuring out how to utilize that.
That's right. That's right.
We're happy to help dealers say, now is the time. Yeah. Now is the time for you to lean into it and figure out in your market who you need to be positioning with and kind of get that process going and understand so that as things shift, you're out front. You're being seen as the one providing those solutions. By the way, every time a business is shopping, they may be shopping for 5 trucks.
That's right.
So it's very much, it's different. It's like flipping the retail where you've got, you have to have 100 leads to get, a couple whatevers. And then here it's like, well, you got 5 leads? Well, they're going to turn into 25 vehicles or something like that, one way or another.
Yeah. No question about it. So listen, before we wrap up, I want to get some final thoughts for the dealers that are watching today and the managers that are watching today. And I'll start with you, Jim. What are some of your final thoughts? And then maybe at the end of that, give us the next 5 years and your prediction for commercial vehicle sales.
Well, my final thoughts are that business as usual. The retail business is going to continue to become more competitive, and dealers have to move beyond just being a seller into mobility. And the commercial business is the doorway for many dealers to move into mobility and recognize the value of lifetime customers, real income they can depend on through loyalty and in their fixed operations, as well as doing business with creative ways of sharing assets. And so I think that this is the beginning of a transition that a lot of dealers who are adapting to commercial are finding it's also a pathway to the future for the whole operation.
Yeah.
And the other element is that mobility means not how many cars you sold, but how many cents per mile driven by your customer base did you keep?
That's right.
And that's a different way of looking at the business. And so in my mind, in terms of 5 years from now, that as that occurs, our dealers are going to become bigger operators, more involved with different sources of profit, maybe even letting customers that need to have flying vehicles like Joby.
That's right.
Toyota dealers may be having an opportunity to take your share of those. So
that's right.
It's the most exciting time I've ever seen in the business, as well as with all this technology and AI that's going to revolutionize the efficiency and how we do business. So
that's right.
I envy you young folks in being able to usher this in, and Kathryn being able to do that.
Who's he talking? we got to leave the flying car to our friend Tim Jackson, though. He'll go out and set up a network of dealers for sure of flying cars. But so, Kathryn, how about you? Final thoughts and maybe your predictions for commercial sales in the next 5 years.
Well, I love that Jim has so much deep understanding of the auto industry. I look at some other models. You remember copy machines when you used to buy your copy machine?
Yep.
And then what it turned into, like Jim said, it turned into you paid so much per copy because somebody was taking care of it for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that really has a lot of potential because life is getting more and more complicated.
Yep.
And, dealers have an opportunity to put more out there to their customers that help them deal with all of that.
Yeah.
And, from part of the reason that I really love this is that I personally and our company sees this as a whole ecosystem with the stakeholders that are in the supply chain and the customers all, dependent on the improvement of technology. I love technology for what it can do for people, not just for, it being there.
Sure.
And so that's what we're here for. We're here to help. If anybody in that whole ecosystem ever has ideas or pain points or whatever, we're here to talk about that.
Yep.
They should reach out to me.
No question about it. And dealers that are watching, you've heard me say this maybe a few times before on CBT News, but I mean it this time. So listen to me. You have to check this out. This is a no-brainer. There are a few times that I say that in my 12 years with CBT News, but this really is one of them. The time has come. Step up, do the right thing, make the phone call to Kathryn and Jim and learn more about this. You owe it to your team, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your bottom line. So this is without a doubt the future of the business that you need to be a part of. So Kathryn Schifferle, founder and chief vision officer at Work Truck Solutions, and of course Jim Press, senior advisor to Work Truck Solutions. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Once again, we're going to get the word out there again to these dealers. I'm going to wake them up. Anybody who wants to give me a call directly, I'll give you my personal take on this, but I'm telling you, owe it to yourself. So thank you so much, folks, for joining me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's great. It's an honor.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.